for the intro. Do you want to talk about the Minions?
I love there's a Minions movie coming out. New Minions movie coming. The best news out of last week was Arsenal won the Premier League. And I learned there's a new Minions movie. And Arsenal's going to win the Champions League on Saturday.
That's great. So I have never seen a Minions movie.
Oh my God, they're amazing.
Because my kids are a little too old for it.
Okay, so?
And your kids are...
I have no kids. Love the Minion movies. Love them. Some of the humor is legitimately subtle and hilarious. You have to look for the side gags. There are inside jokes. I love the Minions.
So I think what our listeners need to know is that if you go to see a cartoon like the Minions and there's like one kind of creepy old guy in the back, say hello. That's Peter Loge.
The Minions are amazing. You give them a chance. You have to give them a chance, Dave. Give the Minions
I'll give them a chance if my kids want to watch them.
You should watch them.
I'm not going to go watch the Minions alone.
You don't have to go anywhere. It's streaming.
I'm not going to spend 2 hours watching a Minions movie alone. I got stuff to do.
You have a wife? I'll come over and watch one with you.
No!
Love the Minions. I have Minions blow up Christmas things on our porch at Christmas.
Welcome to Office Hours with Karpf and Loge, where we discuss the Minions movie, Arsenal, and I think that's about it.
That's all I got. Thank you. It's been a great time. All right, people of the pod, let's do this. We're officially starting now.
All right.
That was the banter.
That was the banter portion.
Section.
We're still working on it?
We're still working on the banter.
Still working on it.
How are we doing, Yvonne? We're bantering? Producer gives us thumbs up. We're good. So I think we have to talk about stuff. What do you want? What do you want? There's
What's happened in the world in the last 2 weeks?
Oh my gosh. Well, we got the Aristotle quote, the Aristotle from my pad. You still don't have a bingo card. The ultimate value of life depends upon the awareness and the power of contemplation rather than upon mere survival. Power of contemplation, Dave. What are you contemplating?
So one thing I'm thinking about, or that brings to mind, very soon Elon Musk is going to become the world's first trillionaire.
I thought he already was.
No, he's not there yet.
Okay.
So when SpaceX goes public, his stake in SpaceX is going to make him a trillionaire.
Okay.
I don't really think he's a contemplation guy. I kind of feel like we've designed a society that is at odds with that Aristotle quote.
That doesn't mean it's the value of life. The value of your portfolio is not the value of life, Dave. Life. There's more to life than your portfolio.
That is something that you tell me and something I would like to believe, but not something that seems to be true in our society today. Discuss.
It's true. No. There's politics. People tune in for the politics. What do you want to start with? There are many things.
So I think we want to spend most of today talking about the DNC autopsy that wasn't.
Oh my God.
First, before we get into that, because I feel like you're going to have big feelings about that.
I have big feelings about that.
So before we get into the big feelings, I just want to note, since we last talked, there have been a bunch of Republican primaries that have again made clear, right? Like Ken Paxton is now going to be the candidate for Texas Senate over John Cornyn.
By a lot, too. That wasn't even close.
By a lot. It helped a lot that Donald Trump decided that's my guy. That outright criminal is my guy because I guess crime recognizes
And against
crime.
the RNC's wishes. The Republican National Committee has been working hard to keep Cornyn in that seat.
Like I'm not sure that the Dems are gonna flip Texas, but it's now more likely.
Yeah.
But the thing that also drives home is just how much. Like I was saying back during the Biden years, I think on this pod a bunch of times that only the Republican Party can fix the Republican Party. And this is a reminder that here we are in 2026. They are still light years away and getting further away from being a party that breaks its own fever. Because right now to be a Republican is to be a Trump supporter. And if you are not a strong enough Trump supporter, you are no longer a Republican.
In the primaries. We'll see what happens in November. I mean, Navigator Research has a new report out this week done by one of our alumni that looks at the Republican Party's numbers in battleground states. And they're deeply underwater on every metric. Voters really don't like Republicans. They don't like Democrats. They don't like Democrats less than they don't like Republicans. Most people don't like anybody. But the Republican Party's in hot water. Trump has said he doesn't care about the midterms. He actually said this out loud, right? You've got in Nebraska a Democratic Senate candidate endorsing the independent. You've got speculation in North Dakota that the same thing could or should happen in North Dakota. In Montana, you have an independent who, if the math bounces the right way, could take down a Trump-aligned Republican, right? So yeah, in the primaries, the base is superheated and doing the thing, but it is wildly unpopular and getting less popular.
Yes, I mean, that's going to matter for the general election. You're right. And still, like one of the things that stands out to me with Trump constantly breaking all norms and an awful lot of things that we thought were black letter law, only for the Supreme Court to be like, I don't know, man, it's cool, is we're going to end up like if the House and the Senate both go well for Democrats. Right. In 2027, when we're having these conversations, because the podcast is never going away, let's be clear on this. Let's admit it here for everyone.
We're doing live shows.
He's not admitting it, but he will.
Book us for live shows. We'll do live shows. I'm sorry, you were saying something?
Yeah, so we're going to find in 2027 an awful lot of conversation about impeachment.
Yep.
Because he's going to keep doing stuff that he really needs to be impeached for.
Yep.
And you might actually see that go through in the House like it did last time.
Maybe.
And then the question is going to be, where do 67 votes come from in the Senate?
And what happened?
And that only happens when you get a Senate, or when you get a Republican Party that is willing to stand up to the guy. And right now, anybody who shows the barest inkling of that gets sent packing.
In
so
primaries.
That's not going to happen.
In primaries, right? I mean, you've long said only Republicans can fix Republicans, and I've long said that Republicans have to be more afraid to support Trump than to oppose him.
Yeah.
Right? Right now it's the reverse. But once, and I think this happens coming into the general, we'll see how badly Republicans get shellacked in November. Coming out of the general, I think you're going to have a bunch of Republicans going, no, that's not what we meant. And they're going to go back to a series of policies, which is more conservative than sort of the Bush-Romney Republicans of the late 90s, early 2000s. But that isn't as hateful, selfish, and mean as the current Republican Party, right? You're going to have hopefully a sane border policy. Senator Rubio led a bipartisan effort on the border a bunch of years ago. We're going to get back to kind of that, maybe. I think a lot, I don't know. I don't think anybody likes these politics. And I think if Republicans can run on and be successful being conservatives without being jerks, then you're going to have more people wanting to do that, right? Because if it's more fun, it's more productive, it's less awful, and if it also wins, do that.
I mean, I think that's going to be the line in the intra-party squabble, but I think that probably starts in 2020. I said
the day after the election is when it starts.
Yeah, the day after the election to a certain degree. Again, he will still be dominating all media and all funding, right? Because he's still, he's still going to control the FCC, so he'll still have Brendan Carr saying to every media channel, you need to just cover Trump and nobody who disagrees with him, and that includes the rhinos. I think he posted a couple of days ago on Truth Social a photo of himself with a gun hunting a rhino, and it said on it, not a photo, an AI generated no rhinos, right? He put that up on Truth Social, right? Yeah. So whereas right now he's picking fights with enemies, and that's mostly Democrats and people who worked in government. Soon it'll be them, and also any Republican who doesn't swear good enough fealty.
Well, he's already done that, right? He went after Massey, he's gone after Cornyn, he's going after Thune. The list of Republicans is long.
But again, that's the theory of that. Strategically, the theory of that is so long as he keeps a stranglehold on the Republican Party leadership, elite Republicans, he can continue to do whatever he wants. That doesn't last for forever. In the medium term, that doesn't work at all. But in the short term, the short term is kind of all he cares about, that lets him have his UFC fights on the White House lawn. That allows him to build his arches to himself. That allows him to destroy NATO. There's a lot of damage that he can do so long as there's no one left in the Republican Party who's willing to rein him in.
And I think, yes, obviously that's true. But I think after the primaries, it begins to change. After the general, it really changes because the political map is going to be different and the incentives are going to be different because right now you're looking at, on the Republican side, the 28 primaries, right? And who's going to be the next Trump and who's going to be the anti-Trump. And they're going to have this debate while the Democrats have their own version of it, but the attention will be on Trump. Can we talk about the Democratic autopsy report?
Let's,
because I feel like the primary stuff the results are interesting. They're not surprising.
Yeah.
And our hot takes at this point are the same hot takes we've had for years.
You're totally right about that. The DNC autopsy.
Somebody paid for this.
We're all paying for it?
Somebody wrote a check. Some consultant bought a boat based on that thing.
So how sometimes you'll be at a meeting and they'll start with an icebreaker? My icebreaker question for you is what's the one sentence that sums up your feelings about this?
Holy cats. Holy cats. I have a whole list of things, and they're on my laptop because I don't believe because they're on my laptop. And I asked the producer if I could have the laptop, and she said it would look terrible visually. I have great takes, but I'm not allowed to show them.
Okay, looking terrible visually is kind of your whole brand.
Throwing Yvonne under the bus.
That is your brand.
I got the pad now. I follow instructions.
Talk to us about the holy cats.
Holy cats. Okay, so
some of our listeners may not be aware of this thing because it is rather boring. But also,
yeah. The first thing to note about the Democratic autopsy report is the universe of people who care about it is tiny and shrinking.
But also mostly on Blue Sky.
But mostly on Blue Sky, right? They all read Politico and live in Upper Northwest Washington D.C.
Hey, I'm on Capitol Hill.
Right, we're on the red line. Right, it's people who live in the red line.
Yeah, either side of the red line.
Either side of the red line. There was a line a bunch of years ago in some op-ed that upper Northwest DC, or the red line, is made up of people. On any given weekend, a third of them are giving talks around DC, and the other 2/3 are attending those talks.
That's great material for the pod. Can you get onto the actual autopsy, though, sir?
So
keeping this man on track is like herding holy cats.
Holy cats! So many things. I was just going through and cutting and pasting portions of it and writing snarky comments. First of all, it was written by, I wouldn't even say it was written by a bot. It was written by the consulting firm of Obvious, Cliche, and Trite LLC. Mm-hmm. Two of the things that jump out at me that are, I think, indicative of something. One is there's a line that democracy is an old institution that relies on data and to determine the sources of success or failure. This Locke, I think, treatise on government, a government of the people, by the people, and for statistical significance. Is it like, no, that is not. And the other was losses in the states are the key trend Democrats need to reverse. The huge insight was now the new Democratic plan, they're revolutionary, insightful. Holy cow, I bought a boat based on what I charged you for this insight is Democrats need to start getting more votes than Republicans. Oh my God.
This is like, I think it was in Parks and Rec. There was like a classic line about like one of these teams will score more points than the other, and that team will surely win.
Right.
It's not a direct Parks and Rec, but I remember it's from like something in that universe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have two notes. So first, my favorite bit in it, there's a lot. It's at the end of one of the sections of this report where he's like, when we win, Democrats fight. Democrats win.
Right.
And like, that's like a totally fine rally speech. Do not put it in your supposedly like your 180-page supposedly data-based analysis. Because like empirically, it is not actually the case that when we fight, we win. There are a lot of places where we fight and in fact lose. Like,
yeah, no, it was.
That's not an insight. That's a applause line.
Like, hey, when we fight, we win. There's some intern going, I know, I'll do. In the defense, this was a rough draft. This wasn't supposed to be released. Like, this is, God knows my rough drafts of things are often garbage, but like somebody thought, I know, I'll add this. It'll be clever.
So yeah, to back it up, and also there's some background that we should probably give. The background here is when Ken Martin was named the head of the DNC, elected over Ben Wickler, who they should have chosen because Ben's the man.
Take it up with the DNC.
I was very upset at the time. I know and like Ben. So he was elected head of the DNC.
The insiders inside baseball.
Look, Ben comes from Move On. I hung out with him back when I was like doing that research before I studied Wired. Anyway, to stay on track, one of the things that Ken Martin promised to do was we're going to do an autopsy of what lessons we should take away from the 2024 loss. That is entirely reasonable. Like, that is a thing that party committees do. And then it took a long time. And then there was reporting that they had gotten a draft and decided not to release it. And everybody who closely follows this stuff online was like, how dare you? What secrets are you covering up? And like, I think a lot of like donors were like, what's going on? Why are you not releasing this? And then last week it got leaked to somebody at Politico, I think.
Before that, somebody wrote a piece in Bulwark, a center-right publication, saying, here's what I told the autopsy. I don't know if it's ever going to get released or what the report said, but I'm tired of this stuff not being out there. So with this long piece that got a lot of circulation among the people who live on the red line in DC.
Yeah. And I read that piece. I thought it was quite good.
Yeah.
So after that, it gets leaked to somebody, I think Politico. And then to get ahead of it, Ken Martin was like, okay, we're releasing it. We're going to release an annotative. We're going to show you exactly what we were given. And we're going to add notes so you can understand we didn't release this because it did not meet the standards of like an undergrad midterm. No. Like this thing is nuts. Yeah,
to any of our students, if you turn in something that looks like this, you might want to consider transferring or changing like to dentistry.
I will make fun of you, not on air because that'll be rude, but I will make fun of you so much if you hand in something that is this incomplete and lazy. Like, my God. And you would deserve it. You would know that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's 180 pages of kind of filler.
Yeah.
It does raise the question to me, like the author, sure, I'm ready to throw under the bus. I don't know who the author is and I don't care who the author is. Like, how, if you're the DNC, do you screw this up so much
Right.
that you send a dude off to do the thing, and when he brings it back, you say like, well, this isn't good enough, so let's do a cut. Like,
Well, let's talk about some of the specific problems in it, right? It's easy to make fun of, but I think from a political analyst point of view, first of all, as you say, autopsies are a thing that's done. The Republicans famously did one after Obama's second election. They say Republicans need to reach out to Hispanics more. They need to embrace climate change, do all these sorts of things that all the candidates except Donald Trump were doing. And Donald Trump took that playbook and went, great, it's opposite day. I'll do the opposite, and obviously won the election, right? So these autopsies happen. It's good. Like if you run a business, if you run, we do this at the end of academic years, what worked and what didn't work, we have to adjust, right? So it's a thing they do, and sometimes people pay attention to them. The second thing, though, is like what the lessons in this, though, like what are these serious messages pulling out of it? And the things that struck me that simply were not mentioned were Vice President Harris's gender and race, right? It was in North Carolina, there was a white and a black, two white candidates, one Democrat, one Republican, and two black candidates, Harris and I think the gubernatorial candidate. And both white candidates got elected. Both black candidates, Harris didn't take North Carolina, and the black gubernatorial candidate didn't get elected. He had crazy amounts of baggage. But in the analysis, it didn't point out that race might have played a role in the state of North Carolina. Like, I wonder why the two white guys won. That is a puzzle, right? And in a couple of other places, it talked about young men, specifically Latinos and African-American men, breaking more for Trump and away from Harris. Men are gettable because male candidates picked up male votes, but Harris didn't. Therefore, Harris made a messaging mistake as opposed to possibly going out on a limb here, sexism and misogyny playing a role. Completely absent from the report.
yeah, it also stands out. So, and a lot of people online pointed out Israel and Gaza not mentioned.
The data indicate Israel-Gaza probably did not play much of a role.
Sure, but then you put in the report, like,
yeah, you put in some
report. The data
report.
says you still need to say we looked into it and it didn't play a role. You don't pretend that you can't tell the story of 2024 and just pretend that that was not a thing that some segments of the party were caring about.
Right. That's true. In the autopsy, you have to say people are saying A, but really we looked at the data, not A, but B.
And that points to me to sort of the biggest cardinal sin that I would put on the DNC and not whoever wrote the report.
Yeah.
A lot of, like, all this stuff is known, particularly by now. What the report should be doing is interviewing all the senior people who worked in the campaign, figuring out what stories do they tell themselves, and which ones do we think are most true compared to the, like, looking at the data. And then it needs to weigh in on some choices that you're making moving forward, right? If you're making resource allocation decisions in 2026 or 2028, what do the lessons of 2024 lead you to say we ought to do and not do? And the problem is, like, that's a real debate. And as the DNC, it seems like they kind of said, like, give us a really long report, but we don't want to pick sides in that debate, so just don't talk about it. If you don't talk about it, then there's no point to any of this.
Well, the other part of that, though, is, I mean, there are a couple of other parts of it. One of the things that the Dems are looking at coming out of all the elections, the specials, and now coming up with the midterms, is going to be, the party clearly needs to move left because of the New York mayor's race. The party clearly needs to move to the center because of the Virginia governor's race. And you're sort of picking ideological sides rather than, as you said, what story are we telling about? Right? And nothing in this report looks at, as you say, what stories are they telling, matching the stories to reality, right? So my narrative of how this campaign is going to go is we've got disaffected rural voters who care a lot about democracy, so we're going to lean into democracy. How does that play out? Right? Now, okay, if you're going to tell that story, you're going to act in ways that reinforce democracy. So it's the story that matters, right? And if the data diverge from the story, how do we line data up with stories and tell a better story? Because consultants and candidates run a story of how they think a campaign is going to go, and typically it's based on the last campaign they ran. Right? We're very good at running the last race. Well, when I was doing, some of this just reeked of Clinton in the 90s. Great races, won a lot of races. It was a long time ago. It's like, well, when I was running Iowa for whatever, like, no, like, don't tell that story. We need a better story that's compelling, that isn't about whether or not we need free buses in New York. Like, sure, that's good, I guess. But what we want is a story that says working families deserve a break and be able to you ought to be able to afford to live where you work. Right? That's a good story. Now let's get some data like, does this story work? If so, with whom? Where are they getting their news?
Yeah. And
right? Anyway.
So, and the other
have a
bit
lot of
that I would
thoughts.
put in here. And
If
this
I had
is
my
where-
laptop, my thoughts would be much more concise, but Yvonne won't let me.
It would in the future. I would love to see what it's like to interact with a concise Peter Loge, just as a treat. Oh, all the listeners at home just gasping at that. Anyway, as a
professor and a
speaking
political
as a
consultant.
political scientist,
As a political scientist.
the other challenge for an honest autopsy is that the answer to what went wrong is often stuff that is outside of the party's control.
Yeah.
And that's not a story the party wants to tell.
Yeah.
Right? Like an awful lot of what explains Trump winning the second time comes down to things like people feeling bad about the economy, and I still think there's a post-COVID hangover, right? Like when we look around the world, the governing party during COVID recovery got crushed pretty much everywhere.
Right.
And I was hoping coming into this that the U.S. will be different because Donald Trump was there when we started COVID. He'll get some of the blame as well. That didn't happen, right? Now that's not a thing where it's like if you ran it over, and you like did things a little differently, you would have some radically different outcome, right? Some of that stuff is baked in, and you can't tell the rest of the party network and your donors, yeah, we were just going to lose this one and authoritarianism was going to take hold. Like that's not going to lead anybody to do anything. So this is another one of the challenges. Like a report like this, I mean, no matter what, it should be shorter. Like that's 180 pages and you haven't even finished it. That's garbage length. Like knock it off. But it should be shorter. It should also probably be an internal document so that you can sort through what are the choices that we made that actually mattered and what resource allocation decisions can we make now. Like the ones that Dems debate constantly for the past 20, 30 years are, should we be investing in field outside of elections, right? Should we be building up the party base in all of the states so we can compete everywhere, right? This was the 50 state strategy under Dean.
Right.
Should we do that again? I, of course, think yes, because I've always thought yes. There are people who think no. But like, gather some data on that, because that's a perennial debate. And if you think the answer is yes, figure out how you're going to fund it so you don't just fund something for 2 years and then take it down.
Well, I mean, this report does that, right? It talks about, but it doesn't refer
It hand waves at it. It doesn't really
It hand
do
waves
it.
at it, but it doesn't talk about Dean, right? And this was Dean's. I fully agree with Dean on this one. Dean, who was a moderate governor until he came out against Iraq. Which,
That is
at which
Howard
point-
Dean, by the way, for the younger listeners, and I hate you for being that young.
Oh my God, I'm gonna gum my Jello. Then it also doesn't. It hand waves at Obama's failure to actually build an infrastructure.
Yeah.
Right. I worked in the Obama administration. Huge fan of President Obama's presidency. He just simply didn't build an infrastructure. But it hand waves at that, as you say, as opposed to building infrastructure. And that doesn't mean we can win everywhere. It asks at one point, given how close. I'm spacing Democratic senator from Ohio who lost last time.
Sherrod Brown.
Sherrod Brown. Could Sherrod Brown have won, and what made the difference with Sherrod Brown? And the lesson for me coming out of that race, like he came closer than other Democrats did, was be a popular, well-known incumbent senator in a midterm election. Like that's the key lesson I took from their analysis. Like, come on,
That's
you
not-
have
yeah,
to
that's
talk about
not
the structural
analysis,
stuff, but then you have to say, here's where we can minimize losses. Here's where we can maximize gains. Here are other things. Yes, 50 state. Yes, consistent engagement. But as you say, like structures matter, and you have to at least acknowledge that.
Yeah. Similarly, right? Like everyone agrees Democrats are getting killed in comms. Is
Yeah.
that because of your messages or because the other side now controls pretty much all of the networks? Right?
think
Like that's not in there, but that raising the question of should Democrats be trying to put a bunch of media or put a bunch of money long term into building their capacities for competing on the media environment. Right? That's a resource allocation decision. I don't think that's going to go into this report, but that's the debate to have, because if you're not having it, what are you even bothering to do there?
Well, the Democrats are again in that line. Say, "Oh, Republicans were really successful with influencers. We're going to go get some influencers." We did this with talk radio. Republicans are really good on talk radio. We're going to have Al Frank is going to have a radio show that, like again, the red line listened to. Stop following. Another part of this report, which just made no sense. I read it like 4 times, and I'm certain I got part of this wrong. They're complaining. They pointed out that digital strategists were complaining not enough money was put into digital and too much money was put into traditional over-the-air television or linear advertising. And to prove that point, they pointed out that Trump spent more money on television and won, which only proves the Democrats didn't spend enough money on digital, without looking at who watches over-the-air television, tend to be older voters, more rural voters, didn't point out that like the dude who spent more money on the thing won the thing. Like the lesson from that isn't don't spend less money on the thing.
Yeah.
But just...
And again, like that's just bad report writing, right? Like there is... I wrote a piece back in
it's intellectual sloppiness. No, it's not just report writing. It's digital strategists saying you're not paying enough attention to digital. You're paying way too much attention to TV. Nobody watches TV without actually looking at even data available from the Pew Research Center on who consumes what media where.
Right.
Old people vote. Old people watch broadcast television and cable. You got to advertise on them.
Sure. But so like a point that I was making back in 2010 is that every election cycle, the Dems are spending more money on mainstream television, on advertising on mainstream television, even though the viewership of live TV keeps on going down. Back in 2010, I was like, that's weird and it can't go on for forever. Here we are in 2026, they're still doing that. That's not like the data that's in the report, sure, that's garbage. There is a meaningful debate about should you be trying to reach voters through advertisements on live television? And if so, like, okay, go for Nick at Night and then go, I guess, for sporting events.
Also streaming services, better
right.
targeted
So
advertising and streaming
You can
services.
do some streaming services.
Right.
But like, it's very expensive to put ads on live television, even though nobody's watching live television
Well, they
anymore.
watch local news. People watch local news, and especially
Do they?
Yeah, they do actually. Local news is actually doing reasonably well in a lot of areas, and networks like Gray TV are actually growing. But something else to think about that was also not in the report because it was written by consultants. One reason consultants like to buy TV is because they get a cut of the buy.
Right.
Like you want to get rich in political consulting, be an ad buyer.
This is a
'Cause you get
cutting
cut
edge
of the buy.
insight from, again, the aughts. Like this, like, yes, you're right. And also about 20 years, about 20 years, people have been pointing this out and saying, oh yeah, that's a really good point. And then nobody does anything.
And nobody does anything about it.
Yeah.
Nobody does anything about it. There's
And
much
if you're
to
the
discuss.
DNC, fix these things instead of doing a 180 page report that doesn't say anything.
And like the other big insight, which they ought to do more of, is this was the great insight of the candidates who did well, talk to voters about issues that matter to those voters, like from trustworthy sources, things that mattered in their neighborhoods. Like this is the big insight. Aristotle points that out in the rhetoric 2,500 years ago, and they also pointed out. Going to do another Dean shout out here. That neighbors talking, no, not that one. Neighbors talking to neighbors is more persuasive than people flying in from outside and outsiders coming in. And Dean in Iowa had a bunch of people not from Iowa in bright orange hats knocking on doors, which unsurprisingly pissed off Iowans. Like we knew this, and this is an insight from the report. Talk about things that matter in ways that matter to people.
I need to apologize to my old college buddies who are the people in those hats that all these years later, you're still, come on, be nice to my friends.
I like your friends. I'm sure they're nice. I've got one of the orange hats in my office. It was a terrible idea.
It didn't work out well. You're right. And also they learned from that by 2000. Like that was one of the lessons of the Obama campaign.
Right.
And somehow the party doesn't learn stuff.
Neighbors
bigger
talk,
thing.
Neighbors talk to neighbors.
Yeah. Focus on actionable things that you can learn. And focus on coming out with insights that say something about resource allocation decisions.
And then
Otherwise,
do those things and allocate those resources as opposed to maybe we ought to stop spending as much money on ad buyers next time.
Let's hire a consultant who can suggest that one way or the other and then not listen to them either way.
Clock's running. Anything else you want to cover before we let our good people go?
I just want to point out that the Pope, the actual Pope, just came out strongly anti-AI in an encyclical, which has created the bizarre situation where I, Dave Karp, am going to need to read an encyclical from the Pope. It's 2026 and things just keep getting weirder.
He's
is what
a smart
I'm saying.
guy, smart Chicago guy.
Smart guy. My understanding is that it's very, very well written.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's not usually the stuff that I read, and now that's definitely on the agenda for me.
So this is a good thing for you to read. The other thing I want to point out, I probably should have done it at the top, but I forgot until just now because I'm not allowed to have my notebook or my laptop apparently.
Wow.
I know. I have a very hard life, Dave. I do. It's tough being me.
You wake up
I'm not
every
gonna
morning
lie.
being you. That's really
I know that it's a burden. You should talk to my wife. It's bad for me. The people I have to put up with me. New report again from I saw on John Side's email. New report. I think it was in Nature that conservatives get sick and die at higher rates than liberals, and some research has been done on this already on COVID, who was getting COVID. And right after the pandemic started, viewers of it was Hannity and Carlson were both on Fox at that point. And one of them took COVID seriously, the other one didn't. I forget how it went. And viewers of the one who took it seriously got sick and died at lower rates than the one who didn't. It's beyond that. It's not just COVID. Another thing that could co-vary are that conservatives tend to be older, or they live in certain areas or certain zip codes. Even if you account for that, conservatives who consume conservative media, who have bought the conservative line, you can't trust public health officials, you can't trust public institutions, get sick and die at higher rates, which goes back to also a point you made on our last podcast, which is if we're undermining public institutions, you're undermining public health, we're going to get sick and die at higher rates. Hence, hantavirus, which
we're good so far.
Like, I'm going from a 3 to a 2.
Yep, me too.
But Ebola's back.
Yep. Also that.
And it's one way it's going to get worse is because conservatives have spent a lot of time attacking institutions on which we all rely to do things like stay alive, and the data bear that out. I've talked to a couple of people who do health comms, some former colleagues, and everybody's looking and going, yep, partisan divide. Don't know how we're going to solve that, but this is a huge problem.
Yeah.
Huge problem.
Yeah.
So solutions when we come back in 2 weeks?
I think it's going to take, it'll be 2 episodes before we get to solutions.
2 episodes?
Yeah. Give it a month and we'll totally be there.
Mid-June, we're going to solve all of the public health problems in the world.
Absolutely. Just to throw another thing to get nervous about, going back to AI.
Great.
There's a report that I saw yesterday in war game scenarios where they invite sort of high-powered AI to game things out. It pretty much always selects the nuclear option, which again is fine if we maintain a military, both the U.S. and abroad, if they keep on having humans in charge of the military who just use AI as a tool. But the mythology around AI, that this is super intelligence, it's smarter than you, we should trust it with everything, which is a necessary mythology for the AI companies to support their insane valuations, that potentially gets all of society killed, because if you start saying, the AI is super intelligent and we don't want the other side to have better intelligence than us, so we'll just let it tell us what to do, that's how you end up in nuclear warfare, despite it being 2026 and we shouldn't be in the dreams of the Cold War anymore.
This is the plot of War Games with a young Matthew Broderick.
It is the plot of War Games with Matthew Broderick.
Young Matthew Broderick, I'll point out for our listeners.
Yeah, this is mid-1980s. I was, I think, too young to see that in theaters when it came out. And here we are still going back to that because the mythology around AI gets people killed.
So on that happy note, I think we're out of time. It's been, as always, entertaining and a little bit terrifying and a little bit depressing.
That's actually what I'm going to put on a business card.
Terrifying and somewhat depressing.
Terrifying and somewhat depressing, but a little entertaining.
See you next time.
Office hours. We're out.